Hey again, this is Andy from potatoesandpearls.com, and in this video I am going to show you how I take my favorite bread, which is the Hawaiian Rolls, and make it into a stuffing in the slow cooker. Sorry for this intro, just side note, I recorded another intro, the sound quality was terrible, so I had to create something else last minute. So this is actually recorded. I don't know why I did this, but it's a recorded tour of my pre-prep for Thanksgiving. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. But the video, we are going to be making stuffing in the slow cooker with Hawaiian rolls. My favorite bread. People are gonna love this stuffing whenever you make it, and I'm gonna show you all the steps I took right after this. I use 2 packages of Hawaiian rolls, or I think it's 12 individual rolls in a pack. So I cut those up into cubes. The cube sizes are maybe like 1/3 an inch. But I try to get, you don't want crumbs, but you also don't want like big hunky chunks of bread as well. I'm going to show you about the size is what I'm cutting here. About the size is really good. Maybe about a 1/2 inch, between like 1/3 and a 1/2 inch is a really good size. And I just go ahead and cut those up and put them on a baking sheet. With the 2 packages all together, it took up about 2 baking sheets. This fed 4 adults and 1 child, and I still had some leftovers. So if you have like a large portion of people for Thanksgiving, you're gonna want to maybe double this recipe. So this is the Hawaiian rolls all laid out on the baking sheets. I have preheated my oven to 200 degrees, and we are going to go ahead and get the bread prepped. I did forget to mention this in the beginning, but I am toasting the bread because to make stuffing you need what they call stale bread. Some people just leave the bread out for a few days, but what I like to do is the day before, I like to put the bread in the oven and then leave it out. What just popped up on the screen, 200 degrees for about an hour, and I did check it like halfway through. So this is the bread after it's been toasted, and then once again this is the day before Thanksgiving. So I'm just checking the bread. It's pretty hard. I'm trying to like press down on it, and it's still like a little bit soft, but it's pretty hard. I'm going to leave this out on top of the stove. I do cover it, but I leave it sitting out on top of the stove just to make sure it stays hard. So now we're going into the next day, and I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of butter in the bottom of my slow cooker. The slow cooker I'm using is a 4.5 quart. You can use like a 6-quart slow cooker, especially if you're making more, use a bigger slow cooker, but this one fit the amount of bread and the portion I was making. It fits it perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and dump all of my breadcrumbs into the pot. I'm just putting them in by the handful so I can make sure it's like spread out and doesn't dump into one giant mountain size. The next thing I'm going to add in is 1 cup of onions. I just like to use the basic white onion. You're already using a bread that has a lot of flavor to it, a lot of like a good strong taste. I don't want to have some onion, like a sweet onion or something, overpowering the taste of the Hawaiian roll. The next thing I'm going to add in is a cup of celery. I just chop it up into either the half moon shapes or half a half moon shape. With the celery, it's going to cook down, so if there's people that are like, I don't like celery, it's gonna cook down. You're not gonna see this giant mound of celery in there. I'm also going to add in 2 tablespoons of chopped garlic. This is just chopped garlic from the little jar that you can get at the grocery store, but you can chop it yourself. But Thanksgiving, sometimes I like to take a couple of shortcuts, and so I'll get the kind in the jar just to make things a little bit easier. I'm also going to add in some fresh sage, rosemary, and thyme. These seasonings are easy to find in the grocery store, especially during Thanksgiving. Actually, all of these came in one pack that I think I got from Giant, which if you're not from the upper East Coast, you don't know what that is, but it's like Safeway if you're on the West Coast, just your generic grocery store. So I sped it up because I was tearing up herbs. I'm adding in a little bit of extra celery seed. My family likes celery, so it's just, I like to add that little oomph of celery taste, and celery doesn't tend to overpower the bread. And I'm also putting in a little bit of extra sage. I have some dried sage that I'm just putting in on top, just to make sure it does have that traditional stuffing flavor that everybody likes. And so lastly, I'm going to put in some salt. Not a whole lot of salt, but I do use a low sodium broth, so I tend to put in the salt myself instead of depending on the broth. I'm going to put in about 3 tablespoons of butter as well, and 1 cup of veggie broth. So I just added the broth, and then I'm going to go ahead and put those 3 tablespoons of butter on top. Butter is just delicious and stuffing. This is bread, and it's Thanksgiving or whatever winter holiday you celebrate, and you want it to be savory, and butter adds to that. So I know there's butter on the bottom, but I love to put some on top. If you're trying to watch your cholesterol, maybe don't add in that extra butter, or you can always sub for olive oil. And as you could see, I put it on high and I had it for about 3 hours. So due to it being Thanksgiving, it was really hard for me to get a good shot. This was me taking pictures when it was fresh out of the slow cooker and steam kept rising up into my camera. I did get a couple of good shots to show the cook down and how everything looked, and then it got devoured, so I didn't really have any like plate shots because people were grabbing up the stuffing. I hope this was an informative video on how to make stuffing in the slow cooker. Even if you don't use Hawaiian rolls like me and you use some other type of bread, that's perfectly fine. This is a really good method, and it helps with making this for a large group during whatever holiday you celebrate. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you like videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys later. Bye!